Hey guys, welcome back to Inside Boxing Brain. It's me, Harry, and yes, we're back for another video. Today's video is a roundup and a breakdown of the demise of Eddie Hearn. I wanted to do a quick video just to sort of summarise why I feel that Eddie Hearn is getting a lot of stick, a lot of flack off the fans, and why I feel that Eddie Hearn is now got a big target on his back in boxing. So let's get straight into the video. I just want to take a moment to just think about boxing promoters and where they fit into the landscape of boxing. What benefits do they add to the game? And are those benefits proportionate to the value that they're taking out of the game? So it's no surprise to everybody here that boxing, yes, is a business. It's a commercial enterprise business which helps the business owners and fighters create money and income. Now, historically, boxing has always been a blood sport, and historically it was actually run by the mafia and the mob. So way back when fights used to get organised, it was actually syndicates of different mobs, gangs, that used to collectively put on fights, fund the fights, sell tickets, create the events. And slowly but surely the industry started to revolutionise. It got a little bit more modern, it got updated. People who were involved in criminality came over to the right side of the line and registered their businesses as legitimate corporate entities. However, what hasn't changed in the game is the way that these promoters deal with their fighters and the way that these promoters actually fund and sponsor the fights. Just one example from very recently, MTK Global, drug syndicate run by a crime boss, funding boxers, boxing events, promotional companies. So it just shows that even at the upper echelon of the sport, criminality absolutely still exists. And apparently there's no formal news coverage or statement from the Embassy of the United States, but anybody who was involved in MTK Global on a commercial relationship is now banned from travelling into the United States of America. Now that includes Tyson Fury, it includes Tommy Fury, pretty much the entire Fury camp. It even includes people like Ben Davidson and also people like Kugan Cassius, who, as we all know, or boxing fans will know, is the owner of IFL TV, one of the most popular boxing coverage channels on YouTube. So how does this all relate into boxing promoters and whether they are good or bad for the sport? Now, to relate this back into Eddie Hearn as a boxing promoter, as a businessman, when he stepped onto the scene and he created Matchroom Boxing, he actually brought a lot of energy, enthusiasm, youthful charisma to the game. And in the initial period of his uprising, over the first 2 or 3 years as he was building Matchroom Sports, he had some brilliant fighters and he put on some great events. Notably, you can say the work that he's done with fighters like Kell Brook, Tony Bellew, and so forth, shows that at one point in the game he was actually good for boxing. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me, and if you do, drop me a comment in the comment section below, because it's also very clear and apparent that he didn't get Kell Brook the fights that he needed. And Kell Brook's career almost stagnated, and that was due to his promotional company not being able to secure the fights. There's always excuses, drama, politics, financial fraud, or financial where people are on two different pages financially. They're not going to create a fight, or they're not going to sign contracts or agree to terms. But it's the promoter's job, it's Eddie Hearn's job to get his client the fights that he deserves. So yes, you can look at it through two different, you know, spectacles to think, was he good or was he bad? But in general, in my opinion, in the early days, Eddie Hearn stepped onto the scene and he brought this youthful charisma into the game, which helped boxing fans rally around him, support Matchroom Sports. And I think the main reason why Matchroom Sports is where it is today is because of the support that the fans have shown that organisation and that business. It's the support that fans have shown to buy his pay-per-view events, and also it's the support that the fans have shown to get behind and rally to improve and increase the fame of the fighters that he signed. All roads lead to the fans, and I think Eddie Hearn has forgotten this because his actions and his behaviour over the last year or so when it comes to creating these fights, managing his fighters, has been disgusting. Yeah, there's no other way for me to really phrase it. The amount of fans that are unhappy with the sport at the moment far outweighs the people who are happy with the sport, and I think it comes down to who is running the game. Who runs this game? Who manages the fighters? Who creates these fighting events or these boxing events? And it does all come back to the promoters. People like Eddie Hearn, people like Bob Arum, people like Frank Warren, people like Oscar De La Hoya, people who essentially have monetized the game to their best interests, have lost touch with why boxing is great and why boxing fans rally behind the sport in the first place. We don't care how much money boxers are making. I don't care that Tyson Fury makes 50 million or that Anthony Joshua makes 50 million. We're not interested. We are interested in seeing the fights that we want to see. And that is why we're in a position now where these promoters need to be called out and they need to be reprimanded and disciplined, because otherwise they have free rein to run this sport however they seem or deem fit. Eddie Hearn has dropped the ball on numerous occasions with major fights and major negotiations. He's become a hypocrite and he's contradicted himself on more occasions than I even dare to recall or remember. All of this is archived on video on YouTube, and you can go back and watch Eddie Hearn's interviews from years ago where he was talking about just how bitter and sour these boxing promoters had become. But he has become the bitter, sour boxing promoter. And that comes across most definitely in his most recent clash with Jake Paul, who, let's be quite honest guys, he's suing for $100 million. Now, what does that tell you? Eddie Hearn is a bitter, sour old man as well. He's upset that a young 20-whatever-year-old YouTuber, boxer, has gone on YouTube and said, oh, Eddie Hearn is corrupt, Matchroom Sport are corrupt, they're paying off the officials. And it stung him so much that he actually took legal action and litigation against Jake Paul. There's another angle to this. I really feel that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Sports are now under pressure because there are so many young and up-and-coming promoters and boxing management companies that are going to come and take over the game. People like Ben Shalom, people like KSI, people like Jake Paul, Misfits Boxing, Maverick Boxing, or Most Valuable Promotions are here to cause disruption in the game. And Eddie's collaboration with DAZN has done nothing but bring the sport down since they get onto the scene. They tried to use their financial clout to buy fighters out entirely so that they could essentially own the contracts and own the fighters. And it's completely backfired because DAZN currently is not growing the way it should be. And that is because they did a major U-turn from pay-per-views are no longer going to be pay-per-views, it's a subscription-based model, to actually it's a subscription-based model for all your base fights, but if you want these big fights then you've got to pay us additional pay-per-view to watch them. No wonder boxing fans globally are trying to boycott DAZN. I think that it's a shame because as a platform, DAZN potentially have the best coverage of boxing the actual shows that they put on are wonderful. They're brilliant. They're amazing to watch. And I really feel that even, you know, the whole build up to the fights, the coverage that we get, the DAZN YouTube boxing channel where you get the face-to-face with that Ole Aladipo, it's fantastic. But what they've missed here is that they need to empower the fans. These companies are only as good as the fans that they have, or the subscribers, or the supporters that they have. And people like Eddie Hearn, people like DAZN, people like Frank Smith at Matchroom Sports, what they've done is they've sucked the love and joy out of the game, and they are becoming exactly what has been historically wrong with boxing. Numerous examples of this recently, especially with the Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua negotiations breaking down for no good reason other than, oh, a fighter is giving us deadlines. Well, I'm sorry, but fighters are a fighter is a fighter. He's going to say whatever he wants, he's going to do whatever he wants. But you as a businessman, you as his legal representative of Anthony Joshua in this case, and Frank Warren as the legal representative of Tyson Fury, should understand that the buck stops with you. All negotiations, all contracts, all stop with you, and whatever's said on social media is there to build and publicise the fight, not for you to decide to cancel it because, oh, Tyson's giving us deadlines and who is he to give us a deadline? Well, he's the fighter. He's the one getting in the ring, as is Anthony Joshua. Your job, Mr. Eddie Hearn, is to draft and to sign and to negotiate the contractual agreements. It's not to line your own pocket and to only negotiate and engage with financial or commercial arrangements that are in your best interest. Eddie Hearn's most famous and popular line is, oh, I work for the boxers don't work for me. Well, your actions don't translate into those statements at all. And the vast majority of boxing fans are now against Eddie Hearn. And it's a shame, because at one point he was for the people. And now I think he has become enemy number one, public enemy number one, shortly followed by Conor Benn. People are going to rightfully accuse Conor Benn of being bad for boxing. But what they need to do is look beyond that and realise that Eddie Hearn is actually the puppet master behind everything that we're seeing. And Eddie Hearn has got such a big ego that if he wasn't involved in all stages of negotiation and putting on these fights, he wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And it comes across in his language, it comes across in the way he presents himself, and it comes across in the fights that he's making. As fans, we need to collectively get together and call out the promoters. Eddie Hearn is bad for boxing. Eddie Hearn is essentially looking at the game as his cash cow. It's just monetary goals for him. He wants to line his pockets with as much money as possible, and he is not in this game to give the fans what they want to see. So what can we do? We need to keep banging on the drum, and we need to keep raising our issues to the top of the game. It's a real shame because the end of the year is fast approaching and we've had a poor year of boxing. There's been a couple of great boxing cards, yes, but I mean, they've all been a bit late, you know, a bit out of date. Kell Brook, Amir Khan, that was such a shit fight. And it'd have been so much more exciting if the promoters had put their egos to the side when that fight was competitive. And people like Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren and the long list of promoters that I've mentioned today are fundamentally in this sport to create wealth for themselves and for their most nearest and dearest. And that is why we're in a position now where pay-per-view is still the prime focus for all of these athletes and promotional companies, and they're making us pay extortionate amounts to watch boxing live. And the maddest thing about it is, in 90% of the cases, if you go onto YouTube the day after, it's been published. So why are we paying £30 or £25 for a pay-per-view fight when the day after it's going to be published on YouTube anyway? It's because they want to milk the game for as much money as they can. And Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, has enough money to last him 10 lifetimes. He doesn't need to keep lining his own pockets and trying to financially benefit Matchroom Sports. and oh, we're going to float this company, and Jake Paul's insulted us and he's done reputational damage. What a bitter man he has become. Guys, do leave me your comments if you agree with me or disagree with me. Is Eddie Hearn good for boxing? Or is Eddie Hearn become what he once said was bad for boxing? Please subscribe to my channel. My aim is to hit 1,000 subscribers by the new year. And if we do hit 1,000 subscribers, we are doing a boxing giveaway. The way to subscribe, or the way to enter the competition, is to subscribe to my channel and drop me a comment below. Whether you agree or disagree, we are impartial. I'm just going to pick the most insightful and interesting comment, and we are going to send you up to £300 worth of boxing equipment. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's Harry from Inside Boxing Brain. And yes, you guessed right, I'll be back for another video very soon. Boom!